I'm as ready as I'm gonna be. Here we
Go.
are.
Okay, it's saying live. So
All right. Well, welcome everyone. See if I can get that chat box going.
yeah, I'm still looking for it on your channel.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of ambushing everyone with this, so we'll see if people start to pick up on it and jump in. We can give it a few. I'm getting some messages here from. I'll see if some people catch on. This is why I should have given the heads up.
Yeah, I can't. I can't see it on the channel though.
Interesting.
Let's see my phone.
Well, it says we're live. Like I'm getting all these notifications and.
Right, actually,
I need my glasses.
Actually, we are live. So
yeah,
it's now on my phone. So I'm not sure why it's not there. Right. Okay, I'll check in on that in a minute. But yeah, we are live according to my phone.
All right.
So hello, and there might not be anybody in at the moment, but I'm sure someone will be watching it back. So hi to everybody.
There's somebody in here.
Cool.
Somebody's watching.
Yeah, please say hello.
And they left.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Scared them away. Okay. Well, so anyway, I'm going to go on. We're approaching. Actually, we've just crossed the 2-minute mark. So I'm going to go on and introduce myself and my friend Al here. I'm August. This is Al. Some know me as Joe. Some know me as Prog Rock Jock. We can get into that stuff later. But if you've been to this channel before, we talk about all things music related, primarily from a bass player's perspective. But that's what we discuss here on this channel.
What other perspective is there?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Even I have been accused of this. I've been accused of being a guitar hater, all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, really?
I definitely am. I like drummers, but definitely a guitar hater because you have those friendly battles on stage, don't you, with volume and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like you can. I always have to say, most guitarists I know, you can drop out a little bit in the verse, and just let the bass and drums ride it along. Yeah, but we love our guitarist friends, don't we?
No, I mean, for me, it couldn't be further from the truth. But there was a period where I did not. I used to battle with guitar players a lot.
Yeah,
and one in particular who was like a brother to me, and we would go through a lot as far as like the arguing and.
Yeah.
To some degree, we almost put the Gallagher brothers to shame, but we didn't have any like full-on brawls or anything like that.
No, I think I have on stage or during setup.
I've had a lot of close calls, but usually a lot of people get in the way. A lot of people break that stuff up.
Yeah.
So.
Wise. So this is cool. So this is the first live stream. And we, like you say, we're going to be talking all things bass. What we're going to start off with?
Gosh, well, we could start by discussing who's going to be the next great boutique bass, but on a budget. You know what I mean by that? Like, who's going to be the next great instrument maker who's bringing in instruments at a price that is, let's just be realistic here, under $2,000.
Mm-hmm. What, you mean like someone new? Have you got someone in mind?
I do not. I've been looking around, but every time I think I've found someone, they just disappear.
Yeah. Well, that's a bit of a curveball. It's funny because I was thinking earlier about we're going to be talking about gear and basses and stuff like that. and I started thinking about that I will, obviously I'll bring this back to that subject. And I was thinking, I know that we would have been playing the same bases right from when we started, but we would have been playing very, very different amplifiers because people obviously probably realise by now I'm in the UK. I'm just north of London, and I've sort of toured halfway around the world and stuff, but I've very much come from a sort of British centric when it comes to gear. But there obviously, there have been some UK based builders like Wow or Wall, however you want to pronounce it, that you would have seen more over here and plenty more like Ken Smiths and stuff like that. I think you would see over in the States, Padulas and stuff like that. But bass amps, we would have used completely different gear, of us coming up. And there's a lot of parallels between me and you, with how we started and what we've done, and styles that we played. And I think that's how we sort of come to know each other through chatting online and on your channel.
Yep.
So guitars, yeah, that's a tough one. I think that no one's going to be making a sub to $2,000 or pounds bass that's come out of a small workshop, like a small luthier. It's going to carry on being, people like Ibanez that are going to be making near sort of getting towards those kind of boutique bases, but on a budget.
Right.
And Sire as well have also dipped their toe in that. Sire, Marcus Miller bases. You're not so aware of them, are you? I think
I've fiddled with a couple of them in the stores.
Okay, you have seen them, right? Yeah, because they would generally, I think, would have been used because they're sold direct. But I think Sweetwater is now distributing them. But I think that they were sort of being sold direct from a manufacturer. But yeah, that they've been dipping their toe. I forget what the model's called, but there's one that looks like it's got that sort of boutique bass look about it, 6-string as well, and they're obviously sort of in that sub 2000, sub 1500.
Yes.
So what have you seen around?
As far as the Sire brand, or
no, with the boutique basses.
Oh gosh, I mean, really, the only thing that I was seeing for a while that was approaching the boutique bass, but it still wasn't really a boutique bass. It was like the budget boutique bass, and that was Michael Kelly.
Okay.
Which apparently they're designed here in the United States, but they're manufactured in Korea, I believe. If I'm correct on that, I'll double check. But I think they are manufactured in Korea.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that because I have a couple of crafters and those have been great. Typically, some really good instruments can come out of Korea. And they recently took over making instruments for another brand, and I'm trying to remember. But yeah.
But when they started making Squires over there, I think there'll be people that watch this who will have a better knowledge of the history of sort of Fender and Squire than I have. I think the original Squires were made in the US. Then they went to Japan.
Right.
The Japanese, they're legendary. Then they went over to Korea. So then I think Indonesia, then I believe China. And each time that they sort of moved their manufacturing base, those factories really caught up, and especially the Japanese and the Koreans. So I think the Korean Squires from the 80s, I think around that time, 80s and 90s, are pretty well sought after. The Indonesian stuff, I've got a nice thin line Telecaster Squire here, which I think is Indonesian. It's really, really nice, but you know, it'll never sort of have any value like the JV series and stuff like that from Japan and Korea. I know a lot of people that really love those Korean strats.
Yeah, I think other than the fact that in, like, just not to bash China or anything like that, but like a place like China, I feel like they're getting a bad reputation because they're focused so much on, you know,
Right.
getting the quantity out quickly. Whereas I still feel like a lot of the other countries outside of the United States, I feel like they take a little bit more pride in what they're doing, unless it's like custom shop or some like boutique instrument here. And plus, it seems like these days everything is getting farmed out outside of this country, at least. So I don't see why it's such a horrible thing. But I will say that I have seen some Chinese instruments and they weren't good.
Yeah.
And,
well, at the end of the day, they're being farmed out to reduce, you know, manufacturing. Right. And with that, apart from just you know, your components and stuff, you know, you obviously, I mean, this is not to say that you're not going to have some great skilled people working in those factories, because they obviously are. And we've been, you know, over here, we've been farming out manufacturing. In the UK, hardly manufactures anything anymore. And we've been farming it out to China for a long time. And I don't think that's made anyone here suffer. You know, I'm going to get political about it. I think that they were sort of ripe for taking on the manufacturing, and probably a win-win for everybody. I'm pretty sure there isn't a load of sort of luthiers that are signing on the dole because their jobs went to the Far East somewhere. You know, it's just the society changed to some degree. And it's and there definitely are some good models. I think the first one, I think it was a Telecaster bass, or was it a 51p? No, I think it was a Telecaster bass that looks like a 51p, made in China. I popped round to someone's house to buy something, and he had one on stand, and of course it looked fantastic. Of course, I to have a little tinkle on it, and it was great. It was really nice. You couldn't fault it, and he probably paid about 220 quid for it. You know, you just couldn't fault it. You know, it's a lovely.
Wow.
Bit, yeah, brand new.
Yeah. I just remember showing up I went to meet some guy who was selling a guitar on Facebook Marketplace, and I get there to meet up with him. The pictures look great, and he walks around from the back of his car, and he's got this guitar, and the action is like this. You know, this is an electric guitar,
right?
Ibanez, and I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, "What happened? What are you doing, man? Like, I drove all the way out here for this thing, and I'm looking at it, and he's like, it just needs a setup," and I'm like, "Really? Yeah, you think?" And I turn it over, and I see it says "Made in China," and I never knew that Ibanez was doing anything in China.
I think everyone's gone out there since. I mean, yeah, that's a shame, because.
But I don't blame it on China. I think this guy was not taking care of this instrument, but that's the only time I've ever seen an Ibanez that said, you know, that it wasn't made in Japan or Indonesia.
Yeah. No, and even companies like Ibanez, I think, are having a range of stuff. So some of it will be made sort of more in-house, and the real sort of cheaper student guitars, you know, beginner stuff, will be farmed out to China. I think everyone's been doing that, so that's pretty normal. But at least you went and meet the guy. You know, when I usually do the same thing if I ever buy anything off a marketplace, pardon me, or eBay. I really try to go out there. So even if you win a bid on eBay, and you're kind of you're supposed to be, well, that's it. You've got to buy it now. But if you get there and you have a look at it, you say, "Look, mate, you know, this doesn't fit your description." Unfortunately, like I don't think that's ever happened to me. Everything I've definitely been lucky. Touch wood, got a lot of wood around here.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything
Reverb
that I bought
protects you on
is
that.
very good.
That's why I would just deal with Reverb. At least they protect you on it. I'm not like sponsored. This podcast and everything, or this stream is not sponsored by them, but I just feel like Sweetwater, Reverb. I don't know if Andertons or Thoman's guitars, that they have like a like a some kind of a device where not device, but I'm sorry. Sweetwater now you can go and sign up with them just like you can on Reverb and sell and buy used gear.
Right. Yeah,
I'm not sure.
We don't have it over here, so but okay. I'm aware of Sweetwater, and I know they've got a big online presence now.
So how about pricing then? Because you were asking me what kind of price range I was looking for. For example, do you see the like? Let me think on a budget level scale. Let's think about, or let me mention Sterling by Music Man. Like, what are those? What are those going for?
Yeah, well, they've really crept up. I think I think a Ray 34, Ray 35 are around over $1,000 now in the UK, 1,200 quid.
Okay.
So they're getting on to like half price of a US Music Man. But I have to tell you a little story actually about a Ray 34 that I bought. And this was on eBay, and this is one I did have a little bit of a drive. But someone who wasn't really eBay, not really used it before, didn't really understand how it worked. And they just described the bass in your description. It just said bass guitar, and it had starting price of something like £150. I can't remember what it was. That was their starting price. Nobody's searching for bass guitar, or very few people are searching bass guitar. You might want to, Sterling by Music Man or Squire jazz bass or something. You put jazz bass in the search and you get anything that is sort of jazz bass related, even if it's Squire or Fender. This must have come up on nobody's searches. How it come up on mine, I don't know. I might have actually just put bass guitar in the search just for some reason, just for fun. And I see this Ray 34, hardly played, absolutely stonking bass, and already had two US Stingrays at the time, two at the time, and I bid on it, and I got it for 150 quid. Because nobody else bid on it, nobody saw it. But if he had listed it properly, Sterling by Music Man, Ray 34, people would have found it, and it would have gone up to like 450 quid.
Oh, easily.
And I ended up, I kept it a little while, but and it was fine. It was absolutely fine. Couldn't really fault it. But I had, at the time, I had my number one Stingray that I've had since 97, that I bought brand new, and I've done 1,300 gigs with that, and it's been
wow,
world with me as well. And that's just, that's my forever bass,
Yeah.
And we'll talk about yours as well in a minute. And I want to hear the story again about how you chased halfway across the States to get your Padula back.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
That was brilliant. Well, I was saying, yeah, so and it was absolutely fine, but there was no need for me to keep it. I really did only buy it because it's silly money. And I sold it about 3 months later for $450.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But
yeah, because $150 is a steal for even a Ray 4.
Yeah, I've noticed that they've really been going up in price. So yeah, especially new ones, they've escalated. And as long as they keep on bringing cheaper models in, the top of the range of the Sterlings will sort of they're nipping up there now. So you can buy a US Fender, not new, but like a 2019 or 2015 jazz standard, which is an excellent bass, with custom shop pickups. The okay, Sanaka Edwards, hello. Yeah, thanks.
Hello.
Lovely, thanks. Yeah, we'll keep it at line in the chat. Got any questions about anything for either of us? Please, anybody that's listening, please let us know.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was like I say, you could get a 20, sort of late 2019's American standard jazz bass for around the £900,000 mark over here, and people are selling sterlings for over £1,000 new. So if you don't mind buying something that's a light, I bought it was probably about 2015 white jazz standard, and absolutely love that bass, and I traded it for a Warwick, and that's a tale for another time. And it was really shouldn't have done that, because I ended up hating that Warwick.
Really? Wow. I love those basses.
Yeah. I used it on half of an album that I did with Clan of Celts, and it had the original MEC pickups. And please, if anyone's got a Warwick and thinking of changing the MEC pickups for Bartolini's or anything like that, just don't. The MECs are the sound of Warwick, and that is your growl. They're your growly pickups. Just leave the pickups, leave the preamp alone. It's perfect as it is.
Yeah.
But I don't want to know about the Warwick too much. It sounded great, and that's why I used it on the album. But I didn't like the way it played, and it was too light. Body was too small. It was a Corvette, 1993, made in Germany. Corvette is one of the.
Oh wow, yeah.
But yeah, I ended up hating it. I'm really, really gutted that I sold that jazz bass, and we ended up getting a white 75 reissue about 2 or 3 years ago, which I now love just as much as I love the original one. But a stupid mistake, man, because I just wanted a Warwick. I'd always wanted one. The guy was looking for a jazz bass, and I think, I've got this jazz bass that I use on nearly every gig. Yeah, I can get rid of that. Stupid mistake.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I've been there, man, with the war. I mean, I looked at them for a while, but I never pulled the trigger. Yeah, there's several brands over the years that I'll think I want them, and then I'm like, maybe not, because every once in a while you end up with an instrument just like what you were saying there, and you realize this isn't for me. It's not that it's a bad instrument; it's just not what you want, and then you have that hassle of having to get rid of it or sell it, typically at a loss.
Yeah,
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And it was actually, yeah. It's and it was funny because with that Warwick, I thought it was, to me, whenever I see anyone selling one that's like £1,000 up, for used German, it was the pro one as well. So it was not the top of the range, because your master builds and all that, but it was a very, very nice bass. And because when I go to sell my Warwick, everyone said, "Oh no, the arse has dropped out the resale value of Warwicks in the UK." And okay, yeah, well, right up until I come to sell one, you could easily get £1,000 for something like that, an early 90s Warwick Corvette. Oh no, but not when I come to sell mine. It was nobody wants them. Nobody wants them. 600 quid. So no.
Wow.
But I did end up doing a bit of a trade with someone that I knew, but I definitely lost out on that, and I did let a fantastic jazz bass go. That meant quite a lot to me. There you go. But do you feel like telling us your Padula story again about when you sold it, then went chasing up? Because this is a great story.
Well, yeah. So it's probably about 30 years ago, somewhere around there. I was at a guitar show, and it was people were coming there from all over, and it wasn't like NAMM or anything like that. But I was at this guitar show, and it was in just outside of downtown Atlanta, or Buckhead in Atlanta. Anyway, people were there from all over the place, and they had all sorts of fancy instruments there. And a friend of mine, he says, you know, you ought to go there and take your Padula with you. And you know, little did I know that he was kind of trying to get me to get rid of the Padula because he hated it. So we get in there and we're looking around, and I didn't know anything about Custom Shop. And so Custom Shop was kind of up and coming at the time, at least in my world. And this guy had a Champagne Sparkle Fender Stratocaster, and I fiddled with it a little bit and said, man, this is pretty cool. And I walked off and started looking at other instruments. And then my friend Dave came back to me.
You know that Champagne Sparkle? Was it pink?
Yeah, everyone thinks it's pink. And I was just like, you know what? This thing plays so well that yeah, I'll have to get it.
Yeah, I do, because I like the way you've made sure everybody's got everybody knows that it's not pink. It's the same with a pink sire that I've got downstairs. It's not pink. It's burgundy mist, but it's in the pink room, as I call the dining room. But I call it Studio B, and it goes quite well on a pink wall. So it's as good as pink.
So for clarification, so people don't get confused, I took this bass to the guitar show. This is a Padula. It's a 1989 Buzz bass, fretless, of course. And I saw this guitar at the guitar show. So this is it. This is their flagship finish for the Custom Shop. So when they first started advertising Custom Shop, this is what you would see in the ads. It would be the Champagne Sparkle, which would be confused as a burgundy mist. But anyway, everyone said, wow, that's a great playing guitar, but it's pink. And I'm like, no, it's not pink. So I put this on there.
Brilliant.
So anyway, I've kind of given away the whole story now, but I'm going to go on and finish telling it. So this guy comes back and he's like, I really like your Padula. It's awesome. Would you be interested in trading your Padula for this Custom Shop Fender Stratocaster? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And of course, my friend Dave and bandmate, he's like, do it, man. You should do it. That's a no-brainer. Go on. So I go on and say, yeah, I'll do it. And I go home and I'm playing this thing and I'm playing it all night, but I'm still thinking about that Padula. And I'm like, oh, what have I done? What have I done? And I couldn't even sleep that night. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? And fortunately, I had this guy's information. I don't know why or how I got his info or why we traded information, but we did. And I called him back and I said, listen, man, I cannot sleep. I need my Padula back. I'm not asking you to trade back. I'll buy my Padula back, but just give me a fair price. And I'm pretty sure he gave me a price somewhere between $1,000 and $1,200. And I said, done. And he's like, so you're going to come out here and get it? And I said, I guess so. He's like, all right, well, you're going to have to drive to Dothan, Alabama, which I did. So
how far was that? How far was that?
I mean, it wasn't as bad as I thought, but it took a few hours to get there. I'm going to say somewhere in the ballpark of about 5 hours, somewhere around there. Because we weren't at the time, I wasn't driving from Atlanta. I was driving from like a suburb outside of Atlanta. So it was a good drive, but it was worth it because I promised myself that I would never let go of this Padula again. And the funny thing is I came back to the studio and we were in there recording and I walk in with this Padula, and my friend who talked me into trading it, he lost it. I mean, he was just like, he was furious, and he was like, "Oh, I hate that bass. Why?" He was like, and we almost got into a fist fight over it. I mean, it was crazy. He was so mad that I was like, dude, if you don't pipe down right now, I'm gonna pop you, dude. Like, chill out.
He knew if you'd gone to that extreme to get that bass back,
right?
Then it should have told him something. That,
yes,
there's an attachment with this instrument,
right?
And you bought it twice, essentially, because you still got the Strat.
Yes. So. And and the funny thing is, I'm just as attached to the Strat now because I feel like I put in the equal amount of work. Just and it's a great guitar, and over the years I've received a handful of random calls from people asking if they could buy it from me. Just like my Moog Liberation. I have a Keytar Moog, and I've received and somehow the word got out where that I was the owner of it because not very many of them were made. I think only a few hundred were made. And I've received some phone calls. I mean, it's been a while now, but I received phone calls, people asking if they could buy it. And I was like, nah, I really like this thing. And the funny thing is I haven't used it in decades now. But when I first got it, I was in love with it. I was playing it all the time, and I just started realizing all the great things all the awesome songs I've heard that had Moog in them, and I had no idea that they were using a Moog. So,
no, that's amazing. So, were you getting like proper sort of synthy bass sounds out of that?
I was. Just anything. Pardon?
Was it like sort of like 70s psychedelia mad stuff, or was it more for synth bass? No,
I was getting more of it. I was pulling some of those Gary Newman sounds out of there, and
excellent. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was pulling some really cool stuff. I was obsessed with all that stuff coming up. I just started. I would hear it, and I'm like, oh my god, man, I got to figure out how those guys are coming up with those sounds. But then there's like just music that you'll hear, and they'll use the oscillators and stuff on there, and you wouldn't even think. No one would think it's a Moog because they're so used to hearing that wee. They're so used to hearing that noise. But there's so many other sounds that come from the Moog that people aren't. They just don't realize that's what they're hearing. Kind of like the Mellotron.
Yeah.
Another one that, I had a chance to buy one of those from the same place where I got the Moog, as well as a Lindrum, and I passed those up because I was accumulating too much stuff.
Yeah, Lindrum, and it's classic 80s stuff.
I know.
Wasn't it New Order that really Blue Monday and all that? I think that's all Lindrum, isn't it? I think they used Lindrum. I mean, everyone. It was the go-to. Prince. Yeah.
Everything. Prince was in love with the Lindrum. XTC used the Lindrum all through the Big Express.
Yeah, it was everywhere, wasn't it? It was
Freddie Politti.
Yeah, so this would have been before like your Roland series, Well, I don't know what the first Roland series was, but went on to your 808s and your 909s, and people seem to become sort of stuck with them from to making dance music with. But yeah, the Lindrum, I do. God, I think it might have been. What's the producer's name? I can't believe I forgot his name. An English guy that did Frankie Goes to Hollywood and a big name at the time. He was in Yes for a while. I can't think of his name for a minute. That's madness.
He was producing Yes, you mean?
He was in it and producing it.
You're not talking about Eddie Offord.
No, he was playing bass. He was in Buggles. I can't believe I forgot his name.
Oh, Trevor Horn. Trevor Horn. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know he produced Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Yeah.
He's produced a lot of stuff. I just didn't know he did that.
Yeah, he was the sound of the 80s.
Yeah.
basically, I think some of the story goes that he signed up Frankie Goes to Hollywood on, because I think they already had Relax and Two Tribes and stuff like that written, and he had them signed up. So he wasn't only producing them; he had them signed up on his record label, ZTT or something like that, whatever it was. So they were in his studio for the week. Or something. I've got some of the details wrong, but the main premise of the story is correct. And they couldn't, or he wasn't happy, so they were trying to play Relax. They were trying to play, Two Tribes and stuff like that. And they just sounded like a poor punk band, really. It just sounded garbage. But he had the basics, the basis of the tracks. He had Holly Johnson's vocals for Relax and Two Tribes. And after they went home for the weekend or something like that, left the studio. He spent the weekend in there, and he just programmed in every note of the bass into Fairlight or whatever. Yeah, I think he was using a Fairlight.
Peter Gabriel loved the Fairlight.
Yeah, that's it. And whatever sequencer was that he was using to play the samples with, and he basically programmed every single thing in of the music. And they come back, and he played it. Right, lads. Yeah, I've been working on your tunes, and he played them. Essentially, what we know as those big hits. Not so much about Pleasure Dome, but the early, Two Tribes and Relax. And they heard those tracks, and they just going, well, what the fuck is this? And we never played any of this. It's going, yeah, I know. This is what I'm releasing. And you had all those great big orchestral stabs and massive sounds in it, and that changed everything when we heard that. I remember. I don't know if you had Relax come out at the same time in the States as we did over here, but it was all you heard.
Like 85.
Pulsating synth bass sound with a kick drum, just going through the whole track. Just amazing. And I think that changed everything production wise, and it nailed down the 80s. It was Duran Duran had been around, and they were talking about the TV sound, and the way I think about that is the TV sound being, you would hear the bass guitar through television speakers, and that was probably the first time that you would hear that, because it wasn't about the bottom end, it was all like the mid-range and the top end.
Yeah,
and you're playing, nice syncopated lines and a bit of slap and pull, and you'd hear it on the TV, and you wouldn't hear bass guitar, any bass recorded on TV sort of before that time, because it was just sort of below all the other instruments, and like Duran Duran sort of coming up with that. That's the TV sound, and then it went on from there. But Trevor Horn really just dominated the 80s, didn't he?
He did. He produced a lot of great stuff, and I don't know if you've ever seen him play Video Killed the Radio Star live. Have you seen him do it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane that he's playing that bass line and singing that. He's great.
Yeah, and I've seen him in the studio playing stuff live in one of his studios, and they were playing Frankie stuff as well. And he was playing, they were doing Video Kills the Radio Star, and they were doing, he was just sitting there playing his Yamaha bass, Yamaha 5-string bass.
Yeah.
TRB or something like that.
Yes.
You've seen that clip, and
yes,
and he's just playing the bass line. So, but the bass player, from Frankie, I forget his name now, he was struggling to play it, but he was just sitting there playing it like it was nothing,
oh yeah, that opening.
Sitting there in the studio, and they were just jamming it in his control room of his studio. Yeah, so it's brilliant. But he was in Yes, and
I don't remember that.
Yeah, well, the track, really, really famous track from the 80s where it had the orchestral stabs in it, the big stabs.
Oh no, that's Trevor Rabin, man. No. Trevor Rabin.
No, it's Trevor Horn. Check it out. It was Trevor, and the really, really tinny snare drum sound. Yeah,
You're an owner of a lonely heart.
that's it. That's the track. Yeah, yeah. That's Trevor Horn was playing bass for them. I think he was singing as well. Just for a short time. Yeah. I could be wrong about the singing, but he produced that. And they're all going. They hated it. The rest of the band absolutely hated it.
Yeah,
nothing like any other track.
Well, they brought in that other guy to Trevor Rabin to take over guitar duties from Steve Howe. And wait a minute. Let's see.
Yeah, perhaps you better fact check me on that. But I know. Trevor.
Well, I'm just, I'm not an expert on Yes. I don't claim to be, but I do. I love them. I have pretty much everything they've released, but I'm a little bit. Okay, here's the deal. Trevor Rabin, John Anderson, Chris Squire, and Trevor Horn wrote that song, and Trevor Horn produced it. So you're right.
Yeah, and they hated that drum sound. So if you can remember, so it had quite a lot of the stabs and stuff like that in it from the Fairlight, and the drum sound had the thinnest snare drum sound you ever heard.
Yeah,
no one had heard, and
that song saved them.
Like Donald Trump, nobody had ever heard a snare drum sound that thin, ever before.
They
hated it, but he was an innovator.
Yep. Wow, I did not know that. So it's good to know that he produced that, because gosh, man, it seems like I look back on stuff and I'm like, wow, he produced that too, and
yeah,
wow.
I don't think it was to him. I'm no big aficionado of Yes, neither really, but I think his involvement with them, was only for a year or so or something like that. But it did produce one of their biggest ever hits, and that was a pop song, wasn't it? That that was not a prog track of any. That
whole album, that 90125, was just, yeah. But it saved their career as a band, and that's why they're still playing that stuff now. Or I don't know if they're doing it now, but they had all brought everyone back for like a Yes Union tour. They did that.
Yeah, Chris Squire came back and all that before, long before he died. I'm sure.
Yeah.
While we're on the subject of Chris Squire, there was a couple of Rickenbackers that you were playing in one of your recent videos. Was it the video where you got 5? No, or was it the one of the previous ones where you played? There was a Maple Glow, and I think, was it a black one?
Right. Yeah, I played those. Yeah, I'm having a hard time remembering right now, but I think that was sometime last year.
So that was a compilation video, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just pulled those clips from other videos that I'd done, and because I'm not realizing how many. Even there was some footage that I had not released yet on some of those videos where I was talking about those basses. But yeah, the Cola Rickenbacker, that's what I call it, because I don't know what else to call it. Bronze, Cola. And that Maple Glow, that was at Atlanta Discount Music. Mm. And the Jet Glow.
That's your favorite color, isn't it? The Maple Glow.
Actually, Walnut's my favorite.
Oh, the walnut one.
That's the one the one that I let get away.
Yeah.
But I didn't completely let it get away. I told those guys, get back in touch with me and let's see what we can work out. And I guess they just weren't interested in working it. I mean, I didn't even give them a number. I just said, give me a good deal. You told me that the toggle switch broke, but I'm willing to still buy the bass. Just give me a break on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they wanted too much. Some guy put out a video and he was talking about how Sam Ash, not to bash them now, I still feel bad for, all the people who worked for Sam Ash and wondering where it would happen to them. But he was talking about how you could never get a good deal there. Like, he was like, you couldn't get an instrument or any gear there at a fair price until they announced that they were going to close down. And even then, it was like the last 2 weeks of them being open before you could even remotely score a good deal. And by then, other people had given in and grabbed the stuff.
So it's a shame, isn't it? Because we were talking before about the music stores closing and how we've all sort of been had a part in it, and I feel some guilt about it. But you're talking about Sam Ash and what you're saying about them there. If they weren't playing the game in an era where the whole business has moved online, the whole business. So even your other big national stores are really doing the bulk of their business online, and it's the same with like Anderton's over here, sort of equivalent to Sweetwater. And most of what they do is online. They have to be able to compete. So okay, they'll have their racks and racks of custom shop stuff that they're having there. So if you want to go and have a look at a real high end Fender or Gibson, you can go into the store and make an appointment, have a chat with a guitar guy, and try out a few custom shops. That's where that's invaluable that you've got a store there, because you can't do that online. You can't just buy a load of second-hand custom shops. You can't buy them new. So if you want to buy something like that new, you've got to look at it. And if you're spending that kind of money, 5, 6, 10K on any instrument, you're going to want to be looking at it. You're not going to want to be getting it out of a boot of someone's car with the action like that.
Right, exactly.
You're going to want to choose and possibly have a guitar built for you with the color that you want. Which can happen. You can order that right there. But the bulk of their business has been online. So for those stores that, for whatever reason, couldn't foresee it, or maybe they did foresee it and just had no way of cutting their costs or couldn't modernize, it's inevitable that they were going to go down, and it is sad. And I said to you before, I feel bad about buying bass strings, which when I was really gigging full time, I was really changing them a lot. I was changing them once a week, once every 2 weeks, something like that. I'll be doing 4 gigs a week in sort of hot, sweaty clubs around London, and I'd murder the strings, and I'd want them crisp and twangy and bright, like new, and no matter of boiling them was going to do it. So it was new strings all the time. And when I found that you could buy the strings that I wanted on eBay, and it's going along, right in the early days of eBay, mid-90s or whatever, and you find that you could buy them half the price. I'll be buying like 3 or 4 sets at a time on eBay.
Yep.
Not going down the shop. And of course, as we spoke about before, how many times we've gone into a music shop, bought just to get a set of strings, or try out a pedal, or just to pick up a few picks for your guitar at home. And there's this bass in there that, oh, what's this? You had no intention of going there and buying it. Half an hour later, you come out with it. And they relied on that kind of stuff. And that's gone. And what can you do? You can't pay double for strings and accessories by going in the shop. But it was the death knell for them. But yeah, sad.
Yeah. Well, I would like to say there'll be another, but I don't think so. I think that those things they're like video game arcades. They'll become, they're a thing of the past, but in some places they'll pop up as a novelty.
It's sort of retro.
Like a what?
It's sort of like a retro.
Oh, yeah. I saw one up in San Francisco.
Can you remember going into a music store where 7 different people were playing Smoke on the Water and, Highway to Stairway to Heaven.
Oh, yeah.
All out of tune, and, that's that kind of retro experience you won't get anymore, thank God.
Yep. I just remember this one music store. I'm trying to remember where I was. But you go in the store and where you could demo the amps, they had written a list of songs that they said you cannot play these songs. If you play these songs, we'll take the, we'll unplug the power, we'll cut the power to the amp, take the cable,
and tie that thing around your neck until you go blue.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember one store, they said no slap bass. So this is part of the reason why, after a while when I quit slapping anyway, I just wouldn't even slap the bass anymore. And
yeah,
before I knew it, a skill of mine had completely suffered and died off. Kind of like penmanship.
Yeah. Well, this is another one of those parallels that we had, right? I have a little bit of a coming up story. I won't go into all that right now, but I was sort of a very early adopter of playing slap bass. 1980, 81. I first heard Level 42. I think I'd heard Lewis Johnson. But the main sort of tune into it was probably Level 42 at the time. Then I really discovered the sort of 70s funk guys later on, the Marcus Millers and Larry Graham and Stanley Clark. Believe it or not, I discovered them a little bit later on. So if you could, and I just went mad on trying to play slap bass, and no one else was. So if you're in a fairly smallish town, and you're the guy that can do a half decent impression of Mark King, then you're the man. You start to get noticed. People talk about you,
right?
And it was great, and it was the thing to do at that time in the early 80s, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
The girls loved it. And I loved it. I just loved that style. But it lost its sort of flavour later on, because everyone would do it. I remember going to the Olympia. It was just a music. So was it a bass show? It might have been just a bass show. Sort of 1984 with a couple of bandmates, and everybody was just, whenever there was a bass guitar, there'd be little kids, and they'd pick up a bass guitar and they'd just go with it. And I saw everybody trying to thumb a bass guitar, and I just thought, I've got to stop doing that, because that's what other people are seeing, when they're seeing you doing it. So I knocked it on a sort of on the whole, not completely, because you can't completely. It's there. It's always there. If you love it, you love it. But certainly during the 90s, early noughties, if you were caught slapping a bass, that was it was the point of embarrassment.
Well, no, it was okay in the early 90s, at least here. But I would say by the time the whole thing with Jamiroquai kind of brought it back for a little bit, but then it quickly faded again once by 98, 97, 98. It was
the bass player that played Emergency on Planet Earth.
Stuart Zender.
That Stuart Zender.
Yeah.
Great bass line on that track.
He's that guy's phenomenal. Great.
Brilliant. Every bass player that they've had, has had their own sort of style. Brilliant.
Right.
Yeah. But a lot of the Jamiroquai, there was that and another well-known one that was kind of slapped, but it wasn't Mark Kingy style or anything like that. Yeah, certainly had his own vibe, didn't he?
Which era?
What of which era of what?
I mean, was it based? Pardon?
Which era of Jamiroquai or Mark King?
No. You had mentioned a certain bass player that.
No, I mean Stuart Zender didn't play like Mark King. He had a different sort of.
Oh yeah, no, he had his own. Yeah, he definitely had his own thing.
And they were playing sort of jazz fusion funk kind of pop songs, weren't they? So, but there was a lot of sort of fingerstyle stuff in there, and a lot of sort of disco rakes.
Yep.
With an envelope filter.
Yep.
Someone was quite often using an envelope filter, so you would hear that a lot. So even Jamiroquai wasn't a whole lot of slap. But yeah, but I mean, it did come back, and you see all the kids on YouTube now, just playing phenomenal stuff. And of course, we didn't have that. And I remember right in those early times, sort of learning slap bass. I don't know if you did something. I think you did something similar, but not the same to me. Was the style that I came out with was like a slapping tapping, because there wasn't really any videos to watch, and there might have been a couple
Right.
of VHS videos that you could buy from people, and I know that there was the odd one around, but I never got to see one. So you would hear something, and you'd have to try and figure out how they did it. You can just go on to YouTube or go see that bass player demonstrating it on somewhere on his website. You know, you can find anything.
It's a lot more accessible now. But yeah, everyone knew about the Stu Ham video. There was a Johnson video, the Stu Ham. But even Jocko had a video.
Yeah.
But those guys, all those guys would have those videos on VHS, and somebody would have it in our community, and we'd all pass it around, watch it.
Yeah. There was the odd thing. It was the odd thing. So there was that's it. It was the odd one. I remember when you sort of hear this machine gun style, and what we were actually hearing was triplets, and a lot of ghost notes, but not being able to sort of figure out what was going on. So I sort of developed this style of, so it'd be mainly, I could do it right across the strings, but it'd be mainly on the E and the A, where I'd be slapping and doing an alternate tap. So it's like a slap and tap on the same strings. And so there was no ghost. Not so many ghost notes there. It was actual notes. So it could play this really fast sort of machine gun style. And I sort of developed that. And I thought, it doesn't sound the same as sort of the bass players I'm listening to, but it was certainly something. I thought, oh, this is a bit of my own vibe. It's a bit something unique to me. So I kind of went along with it for a while. And it was funny. I came across some cassettes, and I've got an old Ghetto Blaster around. I've got no decent cassette players anymore, but I come across a cassette with some studio demo tapes of sort of jazz funk style pop band that I was in about 1984 or something like that. And I thought, God, I haven't heard this for ages, and I put it on there, and I was like, fucking hell, how did I do that? That's how I managed to play like that. And I thought, yeah, that's that thing that I was doing. And I picked the bass up, and I was like, not a chance of getting near that, because I was just doing it all the time, just 2 hours a day, just practicing slap and other styles and stuff like that. But yeah, it ran its course for me and well, for both of us, really, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was kind of, but like you said, when it was hot, it was a skill that you had to have. It was almost like being a metal drummer and having to have that double bass kit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like if you were a drummer and you didn't have, back in the metal days, if you did not have that double bass, it couldn't. And the pedal, you were considered. Now the pedal's acceptable, but the pedal was not acceptable. The double bass pedal.
No.
No one wanted to see that. They wanted you to come correct with the double bass drums, and it was crazy.
Oh man! I tell you what, in the 1989, I toured Canada for about 4 months, and the whole band that I was in, it's basically a bit of a top 40 show band. But we had, I don't know if this will mean anything to you or to anybody else listening, but there was a TV show called the Kenny Everett Video Show, and they had a dance troupe on there called Hot Gossip. Now, obviously, a bunch of hot girl dancers. They were, everybody knew of them at the time. They were great. And also, I forget the name of it. Oh, Jesus. It'll come back to me anyway. And we had one of the singers out of one of the sort of 80s bands that did have a fair bit of success, not as big as like Duran Duran or anything like that. I just can't think of the name for a minute. It will come to me. And but we had this chance to go over to Canada for we weren't sure how long that'd go on, but most of us went. But the drummer and the girl from Hot Gossip didn't go. She was just like a backing singer, dancer kind of thing. So she stayed at home, and so we had to get a drummer out there. Now the guitarist and singer, they went out there a little bit earlier. The guitarist had family in Montreal, and he knew Montreal quite well. He knew he would be able to get plenty of work out there 5 nights a week. And we've become this drummer called Stefan Kramer, a local guy, and he of course had the big 2 kick drum kits, and what a phenomenal drummer as well, by the way. we really fell on our feet with him because he had a van as well, and he was happy enough to put up with a load of English guys coming over and just taking the piss, really, just, lording it up and down St. Catherine in Montreal, sort of the main street, and just going into all the bars and venues and just fucking acting it up, the rock stars from London,
Yeah, that's a spot that I haven't seen.
Sorry?
Touring never took me to Canada. It never took me outside of the United States. So,
right, yeah.
Still in the United States. And
had a lot of fun, met a lot of great people. But this Stefan Kramer, I've tried to look out for him since. I know he'd played with a few sort of semi-big names that had come through, touring through that part of Canada. And he should have been, in a top metal band, but we were playing top 40 stuff, While we were over there, I'll tell you what would come out in the charts. It was Alana Miles' Black Velvet. So that was a big hit there.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that song.
Gold singer, because our gold singer didn't come. So we got a gold singer from Canada as well. I'm still in touch with her now. And and we were playing stuff like Ballroom Blitz by the Sweet, and but more modern stuff as well. We were playing sort of 80s stuff, bit of Bowie, just a lot of 80s sound stuff mixed in. But we ended up, because we were touring Canada, and I think that they were around about 15 years behind musically, which wasn't a problem for us. So they just didn't know what we were doing, playing all that, top 40 stuff that in America probably would have known, certainly all over Europe would have known. But in Canada, they were still in there, sort of Bryan Adams a little bit, There's, I don't want to really put them down. They're not that behind, but there was not quite as on top of the sort of big cosmopolitan cities that were sort of pushing new music forward. And but he used to do this drum solo that he had probably done for years, and he used to do this every night, and it was a good 5-minute drum solo. And I thought, and drum solos are one of those things that in the 80s was kind of no longer done with it. It was very much a 70s band thing, wasn't it? Drum solos, but he used to do this phenomenal drum solo with a double kick drums as well, and he got the whole sort of crowd involved with it. And I never got bored. I'd see that drum solo 6 nights a week for 4 months. I never got bored of it. Never got bored of it. It was that good, man. He was amazing. So, sorry, it just made me think of Stefan when you mentioned the 2 kick drums there.
So with a lot of the touring you were doing, you're doing a mixture of like originals and doing cover stuff, or
no originals in that band. No originals. Later on, with the Clan of Celts and stuff like that, it was mainly originals with a couple of well-known sort of Irishy tunes thrown in. No, I did a lot of stuff all right across Europe, all the military bases, Germany, many times.
Wow.
It was all and all over the UK. Covers. It was covers, but it was sort of a good covers band.
No, man, you're a true road warrior, The real deal. That's where all the chops come from, learning all that stuff. See, I always went the other way. I didn't want to do that stuff, and I never did. And in return, I kind of, well, as you know, that originals, an original band, your own material, it's tough, and you pretty much have to agree that you're going to play for free. I mean, a lot of what I did, I got little to nothing for it.
Yeah.
I think I saw more money. Fortunately, I played in one band that they were very diplomatic, and they had a very fair agreement on how they were going to split up publishing and royalties and all that. And, that I saw more after that band was finished than I saw while we were out there touring. But either way, most situations you end up playing all this stuff. You're playing someone else's material, and you don't see anything for it. You're lucky if you get your name on the recordings.
Yeah. I noticed something you wanted to talk about. I think unless you that is the way it is, unless you get really lucky or your band gets picked up very early on by a record company that wants to plow some money in, and then you're not guaranteed any too much money back. And anything that I've ever done with original bands didn't really get anything out of at the time. Got experiences out of. We had the crack, I've done live TV, headline, big Celtic festival in Italy, done all that stuff, just fly out gigs, just tell them what gears you need. I'm just flying out with just me stage clothes. And that particular gig in Italy, I left the stage clothes back in the hotel. And by the time we were at the venue, there was no way of getting back there. So, yeah, and it was televised as well. And I ended up having to do that headline gig. Just in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt and some little blue, deck shoes, where all my cool stage gear was back in the hotel. But it was good fun. So, and that's what it'll all be. All the albums, the recording. It's just you never make back, even on a semi-successful sort of band like Clan of Celts. It's always running at a loss, and you're doing it for yourself, really, aren't you? And you're doing it at that vain hope that something may come of it. But and there's still that buzz of playing your own tunes to a crowd, and some of them knowing it, and that's a massive buzz. But I said, sorry, I'll go back a little bit. I said the same thing as you. I remember I had part ownership of a recording and rehearsal facility in Luton, and it just had one room and a control room. So I'd work down there sometimes and just letting bands in or doing engineering, and I remember, and at that time I was definitely not going to do a covers band. But a couple of other guys who had part ownership of that studio, they'd got onto that circuit of doing the big gigs around Europe. Well, not the big gigs, but that big circuit of doing the military bases and all that stuff. Getting some really, really well paid gigs. I'd been a 6-piece band, and I was suddenly thinking, do you know what? And I'd hear about where they were and what they were doing, and I thought, Jesus, I'd love a bit of that. And it'd be, I'm never going to play covers. And you get to that 22, 23, and you see people and they're being champagne bars and they're put up overnight and get all the food and everything. They got well paid for it, and you're thinking, oh, can I have a bit of this, please? So, which then not long after that, an opportunity came to me in quite a serendipitous way, but that's for another time, which I took and kind of didn't look back for quite a long time, and I went the other way, and I didn't want to do anything original. But strange one.
Yeah, the original stuff is hard because the business is tough. And once the record label gets involved with management, it gets really rough. It really does.
That's right. There's nothing left for the musicians, is there?
Yeah, this is the great thing about being a young up and coming musician now. Sky's the limit. You don't have all these entities getting in your way, telling you this is how it's got to be if you're gonna, if you're gonna do this. You don't have to deal with that anymore.
There is, but there's a downside to it as well, because I think because everyone can self-publish now, on DistroKid or CD Baby or whatever.
Right.
Record an album at home. I've done many in this room. Not that I've written, but I've either played on it, engineered, or mixed stuff that someone's brought to me. Loads of stuff's been released, and that's the problem. Anyone can release an album. So instead of having all those entities that you quite rightly say in your way, what you do have in the way is everybody and his dog making an album. So it means it's kind of almost devalued it in a way, which is so sad, because you can say, okay, the cream will rise to the top. Sometimes it needs a big push by a company with a lot of money before everyone realizes it's cream, so yeah, the possibilities are there. I think the possibilities are always there, but I think that there's probably even less money now to up and coming original artists, just because to get yourself onto the right Spotify playlist or right, Apple Music playlists and stuff like that, where before all you had to do was bribe a DJ at a local radio station. Not I've done that, but or a Radio 1, a DJ, and if they put your record on that circuit, if you got on one of those big radio station playlists, that was it, and you were going to be on Top of the Pops the next week. Then the next thing, the sky's the limit.
Yeah,
sky's the limit. It's so I think it's so thick with competition now that just get your head poked above that is impossible, but people still do it, so it's not impossible.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's hard, man. Definitely.
I personally believe if you're good enough, well, let me rephrase that, because if I say if you're good enough, you're going to get there. I think that with persistence, and if you truly are good at your craft, it will reach the right ears or eyes, and it'll go where it needs to go. That's just my true belief. I've just seen a lot of it. I've known a lot of people who just did not give up, and they got there.
Yeah. No, you're right with a lot of that. It also depends where there is. So for a lot of people, just being able to make a living out of playing music, and had to strive to do that, managed to do that, and that's not the easiest thing in the world. I've known people that moved. I'm like a drummer that I played with for a long time. He lived out in the valleys in Wales, and he was just determined to be a professional drummer. That's what he wanted to do. And so he moved to London. He got dip in with as many bands that he could. He got playing with as many bands as he could. He went to the right jam nights. He met the right people. And he did it, and he's been on, pardon me, he's worked for a few producers, especially one guy down in Brighton that's been responsible for some semi-names. So he's been credited as a drummer, as a session drummer, on a few well-known artists, and gigging in the evening, doing his thing, and that's probably something that I should have, I lived a bit closer to London, and I sort of spent too much time thinking that I'll get someone, it will come to me, someone, I'll get discovered. You don't get discovered. You have to put yourself under everyone's nose
Oh
for
yeah.
years, you
Yep.
know, and hone your craft.
Yep.
And
Got to work hard.
and build. You've got to, yeah. You've got to have the ability and push and push. And
Yep.
that's something that I didn't do at the time. Push enough. And okay, I had a sort of fairly good, sometime professional career, sometimes semi-professional, and just really sort of winding down now. But you know, could have done more. Could have done a lot more. I have a good friend that I occasionally see, and he's knew me from the 80s. And every time he comes around, we'll have a few drinks. We'll end up at my house, and he'll tell me how disappointed that I'm an absolute letdown, and he's so disappointed in me. And he means it in the sweetest way, because what he's saying is that I thought you were going to be a massive star. You know, you were so good when you were a kid, and I know what he means. So every time he tells me that I'm a complete letdown, I take it in the right way. I know what he's saying. So
Yeah.
and it's very nice for him to say so. But I sort of, yeah, Gaz. But you know, I didn't push myself enough. He's going, but you're a good enough man. You could have been any band you wanted. No, you're probably over-egging that a little bit, but yeah. But it's nice to hear, but in a strange kind of way.
I realize for the most part, I just didn't want it bad enough. You know, I was a little bit, let's just say I was so diverted and so, basically I didn't have my priorities straight, to the point that I actually blew a huge audition because I told them that I said, well, now I have to work on these days, so I'm going to come in for the audition basically at the end. I had that much of a, you know, like, I was like, well, I got to pay my bills first and then do this, not thinking, but deep down I was scared. I was afraid that I would get it, and that it would just totally completely change my life, and I'd have to change everything that I was dealing with.
Yeah.
Here.
That's
And
very real. That fear of success is just as real as the fear of failure.
Yep.
And of course, by going into that audition and saying, "Oh, actually, can I, you know, it's all about me. Can I come and do the last slot because I'm actually going to work?" And all the guys before you, they ain't gone into work that day or whatever.
Right.
You know,
Right.
They want it hard.
No, not for this guy. This was a big opportunity, and I blew it because, you know, the funny thing is he wasn't there. I'm not going to name drop him, but he wasn't even there at the audition.
Of course not.
He had found his person early in the week that he was doing the auditions, and he wasn't even there. So I went out there, flew out to Los Angeles and everything for basically for nothing. But I learned something there. You know, it's like you just don't go for an opportunity like that. When they tell you, hey, can you come on this day for the audition? Like, I basically had the first day. Right. They were giving it to me because someone else vouched for me.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I can't come on that day. I can come on Friday.
That's what they didn't want to hear that.
So I really wasn't, you know, for me, when I got there and he wasn't there, I was like, yep, I messed up.
Yeah.
You know, I did this. I sabotaged myself, you know.
And it's interesting what you said there about you'd be vouched for this. Someone would put your name forward for this.
Yes.
And that is more important than the audition itself. But you need what they want to. Of course, they want to see. You're going to want to see you. You're going to see what your attitude's like. You know, just you know, you cut your jib. So also to blow that when you've already been put forward for it, when you probably 75% had it in the bag just from being put forward for it, haven't you?
Yep.
You know, that's but there you go. It's how old were you at that time? Without
33. 32,
okay,
33.
so you weren't a kid. You weren't a kid then.
No.
Were you married in that by then? You must.
No, I actually wasn't married yet.
Right.
But I had a live-in situation
Yeah, yeah,
And, there was a kid involved. I was taking care of a household,
yeah.
but little did I know that it would have been better for me just to risk it all. Like what I have now is worth it. Now my family is my band.
Yeah.
But back then, yeah, that was like my last great opportunity that I had to like get out of this state and move on somewhere else, and who knows. But hey, you know what? It is what it is. I didn't do what I needed to do to make sure that I got it, and I learned from it.
But I think we all have done stuff that we've been enormously proud of, and had a lot of fun, along the way. And I think, through the 90s and stuff, I was just by the amount of times that I was gigging, and sometimes I'll be doing a sort of day job as well, and had a lot of disposable income. So there was that. There's a lot of people that would have loved to have done that and couldn't do that, and it was nice just to be able to buy gear. Well, I come from a very sort of poor council, housing estate, from just a fairly sort of working class family. Didn't have a lot of money, so I definitely couldn't. I had to save up for anything I wanted as well. But when you got to that point in your sort of around about 30 to 35, I was starting to really turn that around and had a lot of disposable income. Bought up, Toyota Supra turbo car, a big sports car, Honda Fireblade bike, all the sort of bases or amps that I'd wanted that I couldn't have done before. But that was hard work though. That's playing 4 nights a week and doing a bit of a day job as well. So I know a lot of people were sort of very, very envious of that, and I think and it was nothing really. It was just gigging around London. But yeah, I was quite sort of proud that I managed to pull myself out of that, and then got on to do the tours and stuff that I've done as well. So it's not all sort of, you can't look back on it and think, oh, well, what if I've done this? What if I've done that? It's for me, I don't think I've got too much of that. I would be fairly happy the way things went. Obviously, it could have been better. I could have, you two could have come up to me and said, Adam Clayton, he's a twat. Can you come and play bass for us?
I'd be like, right away, let's go.
It could have easily happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that note.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't living in Dublin. That's my excuse. I wasn't in Dublin. So.
I hear you. Yeah. Well, man. Well, yeah. Some more people keep coming in and dropping out. Say hi, because we're about to wrap up soon. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I could talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
Forever, like just the things I saw on the road and just things in the business and stuff like that.
We've got to do that. We've got to do a whole segment on gigs, on road stuff.
I wish I could say everything, but I just won't.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, there's things that are being spoken that are current events right now, and I'm just like, gosh. Yeah, I wish I could say what I know about that, but I'm, it just, it's not that I want to gossip or cause anything, but it's just like some of the things that I've heard, I'm like, I'm not surprised when I hear these things, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, yep, I already knew, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, some mad stuff.
Yeah,
mad stuff. And of course, I don't know how you've gone down the rabbit hole, but I think being a musician generally, the sort of and also the lifestyle, drink and drugs as being an occupational hazard as well. And I think that's something you can. I mean, I don't know anything of your history and all that, and I'm quite happy to talk about some of the history on another time about that kind of thing as well. That stuff like that went happened on the road, and I think anybody that will come across those streams, whether live or watching it back, will be able to say, "Oh Christ, yeah," because I'm assuming it's going to be mainly musos or bass players that are going to be watching and leaving comments, and everyone's going to be able to relate to those sort of mad nights, just of craziness. And that doesn't even include bass and gear and stuff. It's just another point of it, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, man, it's been good chatting.
It has.
This was a good test stream here. Next time we'll let people know. We'll let all of you know up front, and we'll have a little bit more of an agenda. But yeah, I just wanted to really see how this whole thing would work.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you that this is sponsored by StreamYard. I'm kidding. I'm joking, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's right up there on the screen. So they didn't sponsor this, but it's free advertisement for them, and it's a good test for us. So
yeah. And anybody who may watch this back, in the comments, I'm sure that both of us will be looking out for any comments about this stream. If you've got any questions or anything you want us to talk about on our future stream, or any ideas for us to mull over, then please leave comments and hit the like button as well, and it will help the algorithm. Al Gore and his rhythms. So yeah.
All right, guys.
Yeah, it's nice to see a few people in anyway. So
signing out.
Yeah, latest people.
Later.